I've talked a lot about sort of how HP benefits from all this and a little bit in general about how the community benefits from corporate participation. Here are a few things that I wanted to throw out to mention in passing that I think are interesting things where HP sort of contributed to Debian's overall benefit and evolution. First of all, we've donated a lot of hardware. Frankly, I have no idea how much hardware we've donated, but there are a lot of Debian.org servers running on HP hardware these days. I was amused actually that in Brandon's latest DPL report, one of the requirements that our sysadmin guys had was that they needed to be able to plug the ILO in, and ILO is an HP term for integrated lights out, which is the remote management interface for our servers. So obviously they've gotten really used to having remote manageability stuff that works right, and I think that's very cool. And I'm pleased that, you know, Debian's running on the finest iron. We also host some of those servers, particularly in our Fort Collins facility, and we provide a fair amount of network bandwidth. I haven't paid attention recently to what the reports look like, but we're hosting one of the mirrors that's in the top-level U.S. rotation, and it gets beat on pretty hard, as well as some other development boxes. As I've already mentioned, HP directly sponsored a lot of the work on the PA RISC and Itanium ports and continues to, you know, pay some passing respect to those, though those have now become, you know, fully community involved and supported activities. One cute little thing that I'm sort of proud of, because a couple of us in Colorado helped to make it happen, was that HP funded the legal opinion that was required to allow our FTP masters to feel good about putting crypto into the U.S. main archive, and that substantially reduced the complexity of having it possible to have a Debian installation include good crypto from the get-go. It's also something that I don't think a lot of people realize, that all of the work that's been done to support Linux on iPacs and related handheld devices that's represented by the HP-sponsored handhelds.org website is actually done with Debian derivative distributions. There are two different distributions for the iPac, for example, called Familiar and Intimate, and both of them are derived from Debian to varying degrees. Yeah, you have to know the right sci-fi to understand where those terms come from, but and there are a whole bunch of development projects, as I've mentioned, some of which I can talk about elsewhere during this week, and some of which I can't, where in the end they're going to directly or indirectly benefit the Debian project as a result of what HP is working on. So a few parting words. HP really is steadfastly committed to open source and Linux. When we talk about our OS strategy for the future, we talk about sort of a 3 OS thing, because we do see a fairly long lifetime for HPUX. We don't see it going away anytime soon, and it's still generating a very pleasant return on our investment. We see lots of Windows stuff. It's unavoidable, and you know, we make a lot of money from selling a lot of hardware to a lot of people who want to run Windows. But we feel that Linux is every bit as important, and we are trying really hard to have the things that we do in support of Linux make it possible for our customers to treat it as, you know, a fully equivalent first-tier operating system. There are some things that HPUX continues to do better, particularly with regards to manageability tools and so forth. There are some things that where some features and capabilities are available on Windows that aren't available on either HPUX or Linux. So they're not equivalent in the sense of absolute functionality, but they certainly are things that we're trying to give equal attention and levels of support to. I'd like to point out that our support of open source is, in the community, is genuine. We're not manipulative or divisive about this at all. We really have, we do have an agenda. There are things that we would like to see worked on that aren't being worked on as much as they could be. Some of those things are things that we can afford to put some money behind, and some of them are things we can't. The ones we can't afford to invest in directly, we try not to make too much of a stink about, because that would be poor citizenship to complain and not be willing to do anything about it. That doesn't seem to keep a lot of people on Debian mailing lists from behaving that way. Who am I to comment? And we do confidently deploy open source and Linux software, including Debian, in our own internal IT infrastructure, and we will continue to do that. And it continues to grow in terms of the percentage of systems that are running Linux one way or another.